So the Syrian government collapsed, which is a really big deal. But instead of just repeating the headlines, let me walk you through the context of Syria more broadly so you can better understand what's happening and why everyone is talking about it. Let's get into it. Syria became independent from France in 1946, but right after that, it was a total mess. There were coups, multiple governments that barely lasted, and just a lot of instability. In 1948, Syria and Egypt merged into one country called United Arab Republic. But 3 years later, Syria was like, no, this isn't working, and left after another coup. This just gives you an idea of the constant instability in Syria. It couldn't even decide whether it wanted to be an independent country or not. And historically, this sort of instability creates perfect conditions for authoritarians because they promise stability through strength. And that's exactly what happened in Syria in 1963 when the Ba'ath Party seized power in another military coup and removed all opposition. The Ba'ath Party ruled Syria for more than 60 years until today. On December 8th, the Syrian government fell. During that time, the Ba'ath Party had 2 leaders who ruled the country. One was Hafez al-Assad, who ruled the country for 30 years, and then his son, Bashar al-Assad, took over in the year 2000 and ruled the country until today. But the latest ruler, Bashar, wasn't even supposed to rule. He was literally an eye doctor in London in the 90s. But his older brother, who was the chosen heir, died in a car crash, so Bashar had to replace him and take over after his dad. And Bashar al-Assad was a tyrant. Under his rule, the Syrian government tortured and executed opposition, used chemical weapons on its own people, and bombed schools and hospitals. On top of that, the economy totally collapsed. 80% of Syrians now live below the poverty line. More than 500,000 people died during his rule. It's one of the worst humanitarian disasters of the century. While all of this was happening, Syria became heavily reliant on Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah for military support. In return, Russia got military bases in Syria, Iran used Syria to push back against the US and Israel, and for Hezbollah, if you look at the map, you'll see that Syria was essential for delivering weapons from Iran. So yeah, Assad's regime is gone, but here is the big question. What's going to happen next? We don't know where Assad is. He might be in Russia, but we also don't know what the rebels are going to do next. History tells us that these situations can go either way. People can get united behind overthrowing the current regime, but usually they can't agree on what's going to come next. Look at Iran in 1979, when one authoritarian regime fell and another, even more repressive and authoritarian, took its place. The hope is that Syria doesn't follow that path, but we'll have to wait and see.